Today we're going to start Chapter 6, Section 3. The majority of what I'm going to cover today is really just a review of the Chapter 5 Brown book that we already just took a test on. So I added in a blank slide here because I want to talk about the types of questions you're going to see in the homework tonight. Now, just like before in the Brown book, you're going to get a question that's going to say, given order pair 3, 4, which is on the terminal side of the angle, find the value of the 6 trig functions. So just like you did in Chapter 5, remember in your order pair, first number is x, second number is y. So x equals -3, y equals 4. Remember to find r. We did x squared plus y squared, and then we square root it. So same thing we did before, we're going to do in tonight's homework. Also, if you recognize that this is a Pythagorean triple, you don't need to do all of this work. This is actually a 3, 4, 5 triangle. And I wrote 25 there. That should have been 16. Square root of 25 is 5. Now that I found the values of x, y, and r, now I'm going to put them into the 6 trig functions that you memorized from the Brown book. Remember, sine of theta is y over r. So 4 over 5. Cosecant, r over y. Cosine theta is equal to x over r, -3 over 5, secant of theta, r over x, which is going to give me 5 over -3, tangent of theta, y over x, 4 over -3, and then cotangent of theta, x over y, flip it, and there you are. So same thing we did in the Brown book, you're going to do in tonight's homework as well. So you're going to get a question, they're going to give you an order pair. It might even be a picture, but again, it's still the same thing. So like for example, if I drew you a picture here, let's say instead they said, given order pair -3, 4, which is on the terminal side of angle theta, find the values of the 6 trig functions. And again, this is what you would do. The other way you're going to get presented the question, which again is still the same thing we did in the Brown book, they're going to give you the value of one of the trig functions. Now, on the quiz, they ask you to use identities. You don't need to use identities in the homework. So for example, if I say, given that cosine of theta is equal to 8 over 17, find the value of the other 6, or find the value of tangent. So remember, if you memorize that cosine is x over r, then you already know x is 8, r is 17. We need to find y. Again, if you know your triples, y is 15. If you don't know your triples, then you can do x squared plus y squared equals r squared. 8 squared plus y squared equals 17 squared. And this is 289. Subtract. Y squared equals 225. Square root it. And y is 15. Again, it's a triple. Now that you have all 3 values for x, y, and r, now you're going to do the same thing I just did with the 3, 4, 5. And just plug them into the 6. If it doesn't ask you for all 6, it might only ask you for tangent. So let's say the question only said, find tangent of theta, given this. Then tangent, remember, is y over x. So then you would just do 15 over 8. So that's how you're going to do the homework tonight. Then the last 3 questions are going to come from the quadrant angles, But now instead of using 0, 90, 180, 270, we're going to use the radian measures. So let's take a look. First at our unit circle. Oh, here it is, the slide before. So here is the unit circle. Notice on the unit circle, it has all of those angles from the special right triangles. 30, 45, 60, 90, 120. These were all the angles we calculated. Again, you're going to memorize them in terms of radians, not angles anymore. And again, for example, if I said to find the sine, and this is what we're going to be doing tomorrow, sine of 30 degrees. If you look here, sine, no longer worry about r because r is 1. All you have to do is find 30 on your unit circle and look at the y of the ordered pair, and that's your answer. If I said find cosine, and I'm not going to give it to you as 30. Actually, this question wouldn't have been sine of 30. I would ask you, what is cosine of pi over 6? So I'm not going to put 30 here anymore. I'm going to put pi over 6. Cosine looks at the x of the ordered pair, and this is going to be root 3 over 2. Generally, when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, the students have to memorize this unit circle. It's not given to you. Luckily for you, your test or open notes, you can have access to this. However, notice how when I did that warm-up, how I looked to get my answers to be on the unit circle, and the way that I got them there was subtracting 2 pi or adding 2 pi. That's a big hint that on your quiz next week, I'm not going to say find sine of pi over 6. I'm not going to ask you to find one that's sitting here looking at you at the unit circle. I'm going to give you a really huge angle. You're going to have to subtract 2 pi, probably several times, to get it to something on the unit circle. So this is what you're going to be taking a quiz on next week, the 6-1, and then all 3 parts of the 6-3 that I'm going to split it up into. And
be a quarter 4 grade?
Correct. That'll be a quarter 4 grade, because again, we're taking final exams and they're going to shut off the 4th quarter early, so we can probably more than likely get exemptions out. Now, if they don't do exemptions, then they may extend it, further, but I'm sure they'll probably do exemptions, just like in the past. All right, so this is where I'm going to stop. So instead of, again, memorizing sine to be y over r, you can now just memorize that sine is y. And cosine, instead of x over r, just memorize it as x. Because again, all the r values for the unit circle equal 1. Same thing here. This normally would have been r over y, but again, your r equals 1. So they're simplifying it a little bit, and as long as you know the ordered pairs associated with each angle, it makes answering these questions so much easier. And I'm going to show you a relationship between all of the angles and all of the ordered pairs. It's a pattern, and it's not that bad to memorize. Any questions? So I'll stop here. So anyone who struggled with the 6-1 homework, you can go back, fix it tonight and resubmit it. It's due tomorrow morning, as well as the 6-3A homework. That's it. Now, I've modified my notes. I added this extra slide in. I just went ahead and drew a blank circle because I'm only going to talk about those 4 points, or just the quadrant angles today. Tomorrow, I'm going to go more in depth into the unit circle. So today, I'm going to talk about angles that are 0 and 360. In radians, they're going to be 0 and 2 pi. Up here is the 90-degree angle. In radians, 90 degrees is pi over 2. Over here to the side, this is the 180 degrees, which is just pi. Down here, 270, this is the 3 pi over 2. Now, in the homework tonight, they're going to say instead of finding sine of 90, they'll say find sine of pi over 2. Now, remember when we did this, we used these 4 points. We used the order pair 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. Now, the whole reason why this is called a unit circle is because wherever I draw a radius, each one always is going to have a length of 1 unit. And the radius is now going to be my hypotenuse. So if you recall back when we did it before, remember how it was always either the 2 or the root 2? Now my hypotenuse for the unit circle is always going to equal 1. So my R value is always 1 when I'm referring to the unit circle. So here, if it asks me to find sine of pi over 2, pi over 2 is really saying find sine of 90 degrees. If you've memorized that sine is y over r, I'm just going to come up here and find where pi over 2 is, look at my y, and that's my answer. Because remember, r is always 1. So sine of pi over 2 is 1. On the next slide, they're gonna simplify things. They're gonna tell you sine of theta is just equal to y. Because again, we're dividing by r, which is always gonna be 1. Let's say they said to find sine of 3 pi over 2. Again, we're gonna come over here, find 3 pi over 2 on my unit circle. Sine looks at y. Going to look at y of the order pair, and my answer is negative 1. Let's say they said to find cosine of 3 pi over 2. Cosine, remember you're memorizing it as x over r. Well, we don't have to worry about the r anymore. Whenever they want you to find cosine, just look at the x of the order pair. So cosine of 3 pi over 2 is just 0. Let's do tangent of 3 pi over 2. This one we got to work for. Tangent of 3 pi over 2, this one doesn't change. It's y over x. My y value is negative 1. My x for this order pair is 0. Remember when 0 is in the denominator, it simplifies to undefined. In the WebAssign tonight, you're going to type out the word undefined, if that happens to be the answer. So the only thing that's new in the 6.3 homework is this quadrant angle stuff. And the only difference between what we did in the Brown book is now the angle measures are going to be represented no longer in degrees. They're going to give you one of the quadrant angles in radians. They'll either ask you to find, so like for example, let's say they find sine of 0. Well, luckily 0 is the same in radians as it is in degrees. Remember, sine looks at y, so the sine of 0 is 0. If they said cosine of 0, then we look at x, and that answer is 1. So on the next slide, here's where it gets simplified. Or did I take that one out?